It's 7 o'clock.
What kind of teacher would you
Where's your
make?
gavel?
Come on, Mr. Howard.
All right, I will call this meeting to order at 7 p.m. on Monday, August 5th, the year 2024. We've got consent agenda, which contains minutes from the July 15th, 2024 board meeting and professional, co-curricular, and administrative staffing recommendations as listed on the agenda. I would look for a motion to accept the consent agenda item as presented.
I can make that.
Thank you, Bruce. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion?
I just have a couple comments. I think in light of the budget crisis that we are in right now, we have a 1.5 position that the board most likely will approve tonight. It's the full-time SEPS social worker. We had a resignation earlier in the summer, and administration is recommending that we replace that person with another person. The other one is a half-time media specialist at Indian Mountain Middle School. I think, personally speaking, I think now is not the time to hire additional people. If we can work personnel through attrition, that's most appropriate, especially in light of what's facing us right now. We do not know, first of all, if we're going to go to referendum. Secondly, if we do go, what it will, what it's about. Thirdly, if it will pass. Regardless, it looks like we may be cutting positions. And again, and take it from me, I know these positions are important. Having worked here in the district, I value each and every one of them. But somewhere, somehow, as a board, we have to start making some tough decisions. And I'd rather not fill some positions versus having to non-renew people in the future, if it comes to that. And that's my comments.
Thank you. Anything else? If not, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay?
Motion carries 4-1. Okay. Moving on. We will have some public comments. I have a short read to do before we start, and at that point, we'll get going with those. All right. In accordance with School Board Policy 167.3, the McFarland School Board welcomes public comment during regular meetings from individuals who are present at the meeting, participating virtually, or have sent an email to the board president or superintendent. Participants are required to register to speak upon arriving at that meeting, provide their name, address, and any group affiliation before speaking. Address only topics within the legitimate jurisdiction of the board. Recognize that the board will not respond to comments during the meeting unless the item is on the published agenda. Limit their comments to under 5 minutes or 600 written words, and please maintain decorum. All right, we'll get started with, I think, the folks that are here. The first one is John Crane.
Yes.
Welcome.
Hello. Are you able to hear me on the recording? Okay.
We're good.
All right. I wanted to talk today a little bit about my opinion on the referendum. I'm coming into this as a former teacher who searched all over the Madison area when we were choosing to move to this area. I left the classroom because of issues like this, where there were challenges of support and challenges of administrative ability to make sure that things were being done. I'm concerned that as we're looking at different options here for a potential referendum that we're proposing to the village, that anything less than option 3 is something that's impossible to come back from. We will not be able to find teachers if money magically appears in the future. We will not be able to keep teachers that we have if we can't maintain salaries in a range that are competitive with other districts in the area. And some of the cuts that we're already considering, I think, are short-sighted, including the one where there was a recent departure of an assistant principal. I think it is short-sighted to leave us in a position where somebody is splitting time, because as it stands right now, students in the classroom need a lot more support from administration than they used to, and they are going to need help from our administrators to make sure that our classroom teachers can get the support they need to teach our students. We need to keep the money in the schools so that we continue to support them and continue to have this as the gem of McFarland. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next is Lisa Crane. Good evening.
You have both of my kids, one of them's at CEPS and one is at WIS, and now they're sharing an AP. And I can tell you, as someone who subs in your school, and I love your kids, I love your teachers, you're setting them up to fail. You're not supporting your teachers by doing this at all. I understand that money is tight, but there has to be another way to cut that budget or to find a way to address the needs of your students. You have, if you talk to your administrators, a lot of movers and shakers in a couple of grades, to the point that it's very hard for them to come up with their class lists, because they have to find a way that the teachers can both have behavior management and teach. They can't do that without administrators to support them. And right now, sharing Brook between two different sites that are 1.2 miles away is not only not best practice, it's a legal liability. You have two male administrators at each site, and you're having them share a female one. If something goes wrong and she is not at the site, you have other people there that are females that can handle it, but they don't have the same type of licensure in place. They don't have the same background in terms of legal liability, school law, or anything else that you need in order to get your principal license. I would know, I have mine in multiple states, along with being nationally board certified. You're not making the best choice. You need to go back to the budget. The budget needs to be much more transparent than it even was in a referendum committee. There have to be other things that you can cut. Look at the curriculum you're purchasing. You have some phenomenal teachers. They are absolutely amazing. My son has been blessed to have 3 wonderful teachers who know how to add to the curriculum, who know how to differentiate, who know how to actually take the time to do a running reading test, to understand that he is advanced, and to make sure to provide the differentiation to challenge him. All of that takes time and energy. Time and energy that they're not gonna have if they're also spending it on behavior management in the classroom and not being supported by administration. And I know I should not fully address this as spoken as a parent, not as any member of a committee, but anything less than option 3, you're not gonna come back from it. You won't. You have all the surrounding school districts sitting on openings. The person that, now that it's open knowledge, that left, if you look at what a social worker makes in McFarland versus in Verona, you're talking a $12,000 difference per year, plus a $5,000 signing bonus. When our teachers leave, and that will happen if we go with option 1, and quite frankly, even option 2, we won't get them back. We won't be able to come up with the funds to get them back. We have to find a way to educate the people around us and make it work. Thank you so much for your time, and I don't envy the decisions you have to make, and I appreciate you doing it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Eric Johnson.
Hi again, everybody.
Good evening.
It's good to see you. First, I hope, Tom, you said you're going to decide if you're going to go to referendum. I hope that we do, because we're going to be hurting if we don't. Thanks for all you do for kids, and I know this position's difficult, especially right now, deciding on the referendum. I need to say it from the outset that my kids are all graduated. My youngest just graduated. I am an empty nester, yes, thank you very much. I'm not sad, no, I'm gonna start traveling, and I love my kids, but looking forward to it. So technically, people could say that I have no reason to vote yes for this referendum. I say for because we need to do a referendum. But people get paid for my kids, and I'm gonna help pay for their kids in school, because that's what we need to do in this community, which we have done for 50 years. The decision you have to make is on what question to ask, right? And that's what everybody's talking about. because that is where it's at, of how much money that we're gonna ask for. The district has already made the major cuts you can make. I appreciate the listening sessions that we had, because the last referendum, we know there wasn't a lot of communication on that one, and this one has been awesome, just awesome. And there is no more cuts to make that are substantial. We're gonna lose 22 teachers without it, okay? So first, I wanna ask the board question, everybody else here questions too. How many of you like to get the most out of your money? You can raise your hand like you're back in school, okay, or not, thank you very much. Who likes their investments to have high dividends? I do. And if you're not using Tyler Weedle, I'm telling you, you're in trouble, because that kid's awesome. And I agree with that, because we have to get the most out of our money. And right now, question 1 does nothing, and we know that. We're still gonna have cuts. We're not gonna be able to give raises, and we're gonna lose our teachers, right? Question 2 is the same way. We don't lose teachers, but we still don't raise pay. And so it's not a smart decision with question 2. Question 3 gets us what we need, no cuts, and raises for our staff, right? And it says raises near the Dane County average, and I want people at home to hear that. Near the Dane County average. We are not gonna be at Dane County average with this referendum that we're gonna do, but it's gonna help, just like the lady before me said, that we're gonna lose teachers, and we will. And I'm gonna put it into context with money with my house. Question 1 is gonna cost me $2,220. And I get the basic for that money, right? The basic meaning we're still cutting, but nothing else. Question 2, we get more, we're not gonna cut teachers, but we're still not gonna give any raises. $2,396, okay? Make sure you're staying with my math. Question 3 is $2,530. For me, on my house, that's $310 more that year to get everything I want. Why would I vote for 1? Why would I vote for 2? 3 is what we need, and you're hearing it all over, and I know that there's fear of not passing it at all, but I'll tell you right now, as I've told other people, you don't have the people behind you that you do now, right? There's a lot of people, there's gonna be yard signs, vote yes in November. You have a lot of support. You've got a lot of people that are movers and shakers that are gonna support this referendum and have yes out there with people. There are 13 other districts in Dane County that have passed operational referendums. 13, that's almost everybody, right? They've also passed capital referendums. Some are reoccurring, some are not. I think this should be reoccurring, because you're coming back in 5 years, because in 4 years the money runs out, right? Until our elected officials in Madison do something about funding education, this is what's gonna happen. So everybody at home and all of us here need to talk to our politicians, and I've said this in every meeting I've been in. We need a 0.5% on food or a 0.5% on clothing to pay for education. And we have to do it, because we can't keep doing this as a community, all communities. But we have to right now, because it's the only option that we have. Politicians haven't done their job. If they've been up there in Madison for more than 8 years, they've given us. That's a fact, right? 2 of 8 years. And they say that they care about education. They don't, they're liars. Because if they did, we would have money. Or they could take some of that $3.2 billion that they have in surplus right now and help schools. I believe there's like 400, yeah, thank you very much. There's like 400 some districts in Wisconsin. 380 some whatever have all passed referendums because they have to. That's a nice sound you have. I think that reminds you that you have to call your husband when you get done with this meeting. So until that happens, we're gonna have to do this. Our district needs to pass or have this referendum to pay for what we need for our schools, okay? The district actually lowered their money at 5.4% one year, and then the village took 16.7, so those sitting at home and here know that the district lowered their money and the village took the rest, okay? In closing, I'll say this. When November comes for our vote, a vote yes is for our kids in McFarland, and a vote no is against our kids in McFarland. So everybody think about that. That's what this is about. It's not about our district. It's not about them wanting more money, whatever. They need to do that, they need to run their business, and they can't without this money. So thank you for your time. Thank you for the extra time.
We'll go ahead and move on to the written public comment. This first one is from Tracy Thompson. I have two daughters who attend McFarland schools. My oldest will be in 4th grade and the younger in 2nd grade. I know there is a lot of discussion happening about the referendum, and as someone who has a healthcare background, I will admit the world of education is not where my expertise lies. I will say that the cuts proposed in options 1 and 2 are deeply concerning. I am a little concerned that WIS and SEPs are sharing an AP this year, assistant principal or associate principal, and I would hope that this would be a temporary solution and not a permanent one. From my understanding, options 1 and 2 would make it harder to reestablish positions that were already cut. I am also concerned about not making our teaching positions competitive with other districts when it comes to pay. We have amazing teachers and staff who deserve to get paid for the outstanding work they do. I feel it would be a disservice to our kids and our community to lose such valuable resources, our teachers. My girls have been blessed with such amazing teachers. They have all put in so much of themselves to help our children learn and grow and be the very best students that they can be. The McFarland School District has an amazing reputation for its high-quality education. It has attracted many people in our area. As a homeowner, I also worry that a decline in the quality of our education will in turn make McFarland a less sought-after district and in turn will decrease the value of our homes. I respectfully urge you to approve option 3 to go to the ballot. Give my kids and all our kids the very best we can and pay our teachers well so they aren't forced to look elsewhere. They also have homes and families to support. Thank you. Next is from Kristen Thorson. Thank you for your time and thoughtfulness in navigating decisions around the referendum. I appreciate and respect your willingness to listen and consider what is best for our community. I am ready to express my support for option 3. The difference among the options is rather small for individual households, but has major implications for our schools, teachers, and students. As a former teacher and administrator for nearly a decade, I have significant concerns that the cuts necessary to balance our budget with option 1 or option 2. Cutting staff positions will have an immediate and negative impact on students, educators, and families. Students across grades and at all ability levels will suffer negative academic repercussions with greater limits on available support and opportunities for personalized learning. Beyond academics, cutting staff will have numerous effects on school climate at each building. Specifically, sharing an AP between 2 buildings has the potential to disrupt many of the qualities that help each school community to thrive. The role of an AP varies widely based upon the needs of each school, but most always allows for proactive student relationship building, mitigating more challenging student behaviors, increased support for teachers, better communication with families, and a shared leadership model that allows for an ongoing collaboration of best practices. Further, an inability to keep up with area teacher salaries will begin to leak of our most talented educators and likely result in the loss of many of our experienced, engaged, and beloved staff members to neighboring districts. While a small salary difference might not force the issue, the widening of this salary gap will eventually make it nearly impossible for our teachers to not, at least, consider other options. And this will have an even greater impact on students and families, with families themselves looking to leave town for schools that attract and retain high-quality teachers. I worry about the short-sighted nature of the cuts necessary to balance our budget and encourage the board to let the community vote on option 3, the only option that allows us to maintain the type of learning community that our students and educators need. Thank you. Next is Stephanie Brassington. Thank you for all the work that you and so many others are doing to get the funding that you need. I am happy to say that the village is making changes that will hopefully remove some pressure to the residents. I just want to express my support for option 3 or option 2. I will be on vacation next week. Please share my support at the board meeting. Thank you. Next, Melissa Carr. I am writing in regards to the school referendum option recommendations. We are a proud public school family with 2 kids in the McFarland School District, and I would like to advocate for referendum option 2. I am concerned about the kids in the McFarland School District. I am concerned about the additional $1.6 million in cuts that would be required should option 1 be on the ballot and get passed. Our kids and our educators deserve better, and I believe that we can get option 2 passed. I have noticed an increase in community engagement and understanding regarding both the referendum and Village of McFarland taxes, and I am deeply hopeful that residents understand how important the school referendum is and will vote yes. Option 2 is better for our district and our community. Thank you. And I believe last but not least, we have Lynn Borchert. Hello, I have lived in McFarland since 1996. My 3 daughters and son-in-law graduated from McFarland schools. I'm a single woman homeowner on a fixed income. Like everyone, I am experiencing the pain of inflation. Any raise in taxes will be difficult for me. However, it is clear the schools need money. I attended one of our community sessions and was impressed with what you put together. I looked more at these options and believe that option 2 or 3 would be best to be on the ballot. Option 1 would still have us making devastating cuts. Option 2 or 3 only makes sense. Why raise my taxes and still have it hurt my grandchildren? Option 2 or 3 are a bigger bang for my buck. I am proud of the education my children received here at McFarland Schools and would like my grandchildren to have the same experience. The cuts already made are enough. Please put option 2 or 3 on the ballot. Thank you. Thank you, one and all, those that chose to visit us this evening and those that took the time to send your comments in. We appreciate it very much. Next, we are going to have a presentation by our referendum engagement group. So come on forward.
Representatives.
Thank you, one and all, for coming and your willingness to share your comments with us.
So I'm going to do a little introduction and then turn it over to our group members. I will say we have 4 group members that are up at the table, but we have other group members in the room. If you are a group member, if you could just stand up, make yourself known. If you are a member of the group. All right. Thank you very much. You can have a seat. Thank you.
Thank
Thank you for being here too.
Thank you, one and all.
Hard work. So our goal in all of our work together was to provide the board with some considerations for a future operational referendum based on what the data and feedback indicates, what we've come to know and learn about our budget situation, and was likely to be supported by the community and most closely meets the needs of our school district. So the process, during our meetings, we had great conversations, did a lot of work. You're going to hear about that. And one of the things we did was just to look at that feedback and what we know and to come up with some ideas about recurring versus non-recurring, number of years, amounts. We really looked at the combination of all these factors. We were able to identify 2 possible ideas for you to consider. I want to be clear, there was not unanimous agreement on any option or any idea, frankly, that came out. But there was somewhat of a consensus, but that is a general agreement. These issues are much too complex to come up with one idea for you to consider. So I wanted to set that tone for you as you listen and then have an opportunity to discuss following their presentation, because we know that you have a difficult decision in front of you, and we want to make sure that we're just giving you some ideas to consider, But you shouldn't feel cornered that because, this is what we said here tonight, that's what we have to do. All options are on the table. It's way too complex to just rely on that. So nothing prevents you from all considerations. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to our group members who each have a little bit that they're going to share about, and there'll be an opportunity for discussion afterwards. So I think Craig is first. Yeah, why don't you? Yep. Move the mic over there.
It's all right. I have a loud voice. You hear me anyways, probably. But. Good evening. Craig Shervin, part of the group that Aaron just introduced. And what I'm going to be doing is just sharing with you some of the themes that were developed following the survey, from the survey results, and also the exit slips from the two meetings that were held recently, the community engagement meetings. So there were some clearly identified themes that I'll share with you, and these were some of these themes were shared by the members of the group too during our discussions as well. So I think first and foremost is the fact that people want to support their school, right? I mean, I don't think, we heard really any, groups of people out there that don't support the school or don't want to support their teachers or any of that. So first and foremost, I think it's important to understand that fact. I mean, that was very clear in the information that we got back. I think, some of the themes of why the original or the first referendum failed, the length, people felt it was too long. They felt it was just too much money. They felt, the fact that it was recurring was a concern as well. That was kind of one of the big points. And I think people, at times, the times we're in right now, they just want to have a little more say. They want to come back and have a say in the matter a little bit more often and not just, leave it to just recur on its own. So those were kind of the three big things, is the length, the fact that it was recurring, and it was just too much money. Concerns, of course, that taxes are already too high, that the increase could be unaffordable for many people in our community, and that perhaps people just don't have the money. They're stretched so far already between inflation and the cost of living and the taxes that are already happening. So that was one of the big themes that was identified. And I'll just touch on this again. Some of the group is, clearly more comfortable with non-recurring, and just for that reason, because it was one of the major factors that was identified for failure. So, but we're kind of split on that one, as Aaron indicated. Not everybody is in agreement. There are some in our group that feel recurring should be what we put forward, and many of us feel that it isn't. So that was one of the areas I think we just as a group probably didn't altogether agree on. There is also significant concern about the effect of the cuts, which, that was not only a theme from the survey, but, Craig Howery just read a whole bunch of concerns like that too from citizens. So clearly the cuts and the effect that it'll have on students and teachers is very much so on people's minds. Another theme was that the community education piece is very much appreciated this time around, and not to go down that whole road again, but we've talked as a group, what we're doing this time, education and just outreach and community engagement is very different than what it was the first time, and so the people have noted that, and they are appreciative of that as well. The need for state funding reform, that's another issue that was spoken a lot about in the comments. Concerns about, the state kind of boasting this large, amount of money that they're kind of sitting on, and meanwhile, here we are, doing this. Trying to figure out how to keep the doors open to the school. And I think we're seeing, we've kind of been talking about this for a while, but the times are different now. People are speaking out. They're saying no. They're coming before their government, demanding. We've seen this right here locally, right, recently, with some of the things going on with the village, and so they're stretched, and they're they very much understand the fact that something has to change. We can't, someone mentioned that just a minute ago, we can't keep doing this every 3-4 years, so funding reform is necessary. And I'll just end with, I kind of just mentioned it, but, the unprecedented community engagement, people are they're just starting to push back, and they're standing up, and unfortunately, they're in a place, I think, where they're just kind of saying no wherever and whenever they can. It's just a matter of survival for some families. So, so with that, that's what I have for you. Any questions or comments, or otherwise I'll turn it over to who's next.
Hello, I'm Amy McCullough. I was on the committee. I'm also a parent. I have a recent grad and a junior at the high school. The first thing as a committee we talked about was whether we should have recurring or non-recurring. And just to level set those at home, recurring means that the tax increases will stay permanently. Non-recurring, they will end when the referendum years end. So there was consensus from the group that a recurring option is more fiscally responsible for the district. There will be stability for teachers, and there will not be a fiscal cliff at the end of the time. However, some of the members also felt that the community would not support a recurring referendum, as they want to allow flexibility, they want to see an end, and they think that there's hopes that the economy and school funding will change within the time period. The next options we discussed were the time limit of the referendum. We discussed 2-year, 3-year, or 4 years. And we have already started the first year of a plan, so as a result, the consensus was that 2 years is too short. We'd be back here again next year. We were divided about whether a 3-year or 4-year option would be best. Some people thought that a 3-year option would be best because the total dollar amount would be lessened, and that might be more appealing for community members. And also looking at the bidding for health plans and planning for the state budget cycle and compensation plans. That would fall within the 3 years. The consensus was that if we get a 3-year referendum, community members may be slightly more likely to pass a higher amount for 3 years because there's an end. And that they could support a higher dollar amount for a shorter period of time. So 3-year might be more likely to pass, but a 4-year option is more stable for staff and retention and planning for areas such as salary and benefits. Now I'll pass it on to Joe. You're next.
Good evening, Joe Triplin. I wanted to just maybe emphasize a bit that the referendum engagement group really was made up of a diverse group of people. Many voted for the referendum in April, and many voted against it. So we had a spirited set of discussions and ideas. And, I think we focused on creating solutions for funding that really attempt to meet the needs of several groups. Obviously, the school district, the teachers, the students, and kind of that forgotten group, the taxpayers that have to fund this. So it was a very diverse group, and we worked hard to come up with some, as Aaron said, consensus, I guess, recommendations. And really, one of the things that we came away with were the 2 recommendations that I'm going to give you are both considerably less expensive than the April referendum requested in funding. And we changed a little bit of the recommendations that were that came out of the survey based on the survey results that we got from the people that were kind enough to complete the survey, and really looking at the length of time for the referendum to be in place, and whether it was reoccurring or non-reoccurring. Those are the two big things. So the two recommendations that came out was, the first recommendation would be option 1 from the survey, and that's an increase in taxes over a 4-year period, but ending after 4 years. The non-reoccurring amount is $6.4 million, $4.2 million less than the amount requested in the April referendum. In terms of taxes, for a $400,000 home, a taxpayer would pay $1,554 more in taxes in year 4 compared to the current tax bill. The second recommendation was really option 2 on the survey, but we made it a 3-year option, or a 3-year referendum, and also non-reoccurring. The total non-recurring amount for this option is $5.25 million, which is $5.35 million less than the amount requested in the April referendum. In terms of taxes for a $400,000 home, a taxpayer would pay $1,247 more in taxes in year 3 compared to the current tax bill. Those are recommendations. Again, let me emphasize, there was not any kind of unanimous approval of anything. Some people, people were, came together to try to find the best options. They wanted certain things. Some of them they got, some of them they didn't. You'll have to sort out what really works for the district. Thank you.
Thank you.
Non-recurring, correct.
All right, I get to be the closer. I've been a part of the referendum engagement group for the past 3 months, and I am honored to get to speak to you about our work tonight. We began every meeting, every month, explaining who we were and why we were there. So I kind of feel like that's what we should do tonight. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Angie Bazan, and I wear many hats in this district. I grew up in McFarland, and I graduated from this school many years ago. I am a mother. I have a 2023 graduate from McFarland High School. I am a teacher here at McFarland High School, and I am also president of the McFarland Federation of Teachers. Besides that, I am also a community member, a homeowner, and a taxpayer in this district. So I am impacted by this referendum in many, many different ways. But I come to you tonight as a member of the engagement group. This group, and in turn the referendum discussion, has been very important because I, like many other educators, am going to be impacted by your decision as both an employee and a taxpayer. This school district is a part of who we are. It helped shape me to be the teacher that I am today. Many of my teachers are sitting here in this room tonight. I am passionate about what I get to do, and I'm pleased to have been able to be part of this discussion. I was incredibly impressed with the referendum engagement group. As Joe and Craig both alluded to, we were 28 people all across the gamut when it came to this referendum. And we had people who were very far on the no side and people who were very far on the yes side. And yet we sat together probably 15, 16, 18 hours the last few months. And we all volunteered to do that because we knew this referendum was important. There were people who were vocally against the referendum, there were those who were for it, and there were those who were there because they said, hey, I need to learn a little bit more about how schools are funded. But we all focused on one thing, and that was what was best for the students in these schools. There's one thing that is indisputable. Our schools are the center of this community. Whether it's an athletic event, a school play, a musical, the Timberley, a CEPS concert, our entire community supports and unites around our school district, which was very evident in the work that we have been doing for the last 3 months. We did not agree at every point, as you have heard tonight, but we had very thoughtful, reflective conversations, and with nothing else comes from the work we have done the last few months, I hope that that continues in this community. As you have heard tonight, after much discussion last week and reviewing the results from the survey, we have presented a few considerations to you. We recognize that a recurring referendum provides more stable funding for the district, and we also believe that a non-recurring referendum would be more supported by this community and is more likely to pass and give us temporary funding that we need to continue our schools. As such, we also believe that the referendum should either be a 3 or 4 year referendum. As you heard from Joe, all 3 of the options acknowledged the results of the vote in April and the taxpayers' concerns over what they are able to afford by being at a lower amount or for a shorter time period. We believe that either option 1 or option 2 would receive the most community support based on the data we received from the survey results. While option 1 is the lowest dollar amount, it is important to note that it is going to require us to make the equivalent of 23 teaching position cuts. In addition to the I'm not sure what the number is right now, $1.3 million we have already cut. I also sat on that committee for countless hours, going line by line, deciding where we could cut things and still keep the commitment we have. Option 2 brings us a little bit closer to meeting our needs, but it is not fully supported by the survey data, which did not include the recurring option, or non-recurring option, so that could have an impact as well. So where are we at? There is no clear-cut answer as to what the best way to proceed other than this. We need to have some sort of referendum in November to continue to support our schools. On this, we all unanimously agreed. It may not be a popular decision. No one wants to vote to increase their taxes. However, it is the only way that the school district that we know and cherish can continue to support our students with the opportunities that we always have been proud of. We have heard so many times that there are many voters in this district, we heard from some tonight, who do not have children in our schools, but that does not mean that these voters do not have a vested interest in supporting the referendum and our schools. Whether or not you have kids in our schools, your home might need a new roof one day. You might need surgery on your knee, your car might die, and you would need someone to fix it. In my 26 years as an educator, I have had future roofers, I have had future doctors, I have had future auto mechanics pass through my classroom because of the opportunities they have been given here. I've had accountants and I'm lawyers and waiters and pilots and every other profession that you can imagine, because an investment in educating our students is an investment in the future. This community made the commitment to support and fund my education many years ago, and it is because of the amazing teachers I had in McFarland that I am a teacher today. If we let our schools wither because we cannot pass a referendum, we also will lose our community. So, when I can't sleep, which was last night because I was fretting a lot about what to do today, I lay and I watch stupid videos on TikTok. I teach teenagers all day. I don't know what to tell you. So last night I was worrying, what am I going to do when school starts? How am I going to pay my taxes? All of these different things that all of us are sitting here worrying about. And I came across this video of an Irish rugby player. I've also been addicted to the Olympics the last week. And he said this thing that stuck with me. And he said, knowledge and wisdom are both important, but very different. Knowledge is knowing that a tomato is a fruit. Wisdom is knowing that you do not put it in a fruit salad. And while it's funny, it's also incredibly true. We have worked so hard the last few months to impart the knowledge on our community that they need to understand why we are in the place that we are. But the wisdom comes when we collectively work together to decide how we're going to fix the situation. Thank you.
So that's a presentation that the group had prepared. And so now let's kind of open up for discussion, questions.
Now I just really want a salad. Okay,
I
sorry.
guess I'd like to open up with, prior to tonight, we didn't even know if we would go to referendum. So, based on the information that we've heard tonight, can we agree that we should go to referendum? Without realizing, what it'll look like, based on the feedback that we've received tonight.
I mean, if we don't go to referendum, we are in a very, 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 very bad spot. I don't think anyone wants that.
But the question is, do we all support the need for a referendum?
I'm in support.
Yeah,
I do.
yeah, I do. That's clear to me.
Okay, so we have that answer.
All right.
Angie, you talked about former students that you've had, doctors, pilots, waiters. What impact will this have on future students coming through your classroom if we don't provide sufficient funding for teachers to do the work that they're hired to do?
I'm going to be honest. I am wearing a lot of really different hats right now. I can answer that as a teacher. I can answer that as a taxpayer. I can answer that as a member of this group. I will tell you, as a teacher, the more cuts we make, the more hats I will have to take on in order to be able to do my job. And that goes across the entire board. We heard earlier tonight about the changes with the AP position, which is going to require more teachers to take on more duties. And that is going to continue. So I would say, if we do not pass a referendum, we, as someone said earlier, we're at the fiscal cliff. We cannot continue to provide the things that we have, whether that is losing teachers, whether that is losing some of the things that make McFarland, like the different clubs that we have. I know nobody's ever going to say we're going to cut athletics, but those are real possibilities. We lose the things that make us us.
Since, if I were to summarize what you just said, if we're unable to support the schools to the fullest, the quality of education, teaching if we lose teachers, learning if we don't provide all the opportunities that we provide now, will come to be.
I
Is that
believe that
accurate?
it will have that impact, yes.
Okay.
I can say, as an educator in this district, nobody becomes a teacher for the money. Let's just be honest, right? I am a single parent. I raised a daughter on a teacher's salary. It was very hard, but it is a job that I love and I would not give up. People teach here because they love their job and they love the support we have from this community. However, there's only so far people can go without being able to support their own families. And that's just the way it is for anybody in any position, not just a teacher. I struggle to put this entire referendum on the back of teachers and say that we don't support our teachers if we don't support our referendum. I don't think that is true. I think this community supports teachers and they believe in what we do. But when it comes down to the dollar amount, that's hard for a lot of people to swallow. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, thanks.
We know that we have healthcare costs coming in the next year that are, like every other employee and every other business, are going to go up. And in doing so, that means more money out of our pockets.
So I have one question with option 2, and for transparency, I know the answer, but I think it's really important to share this question and the answer with everyone watching. So with option 1, we do know that it's going to cut 23 teaching positions if we go that route. With option 2, does that leave us with no teaching positions cut and also no raises? Or would there be
That is my
a
understanding.
potential for a salary bump, because not only am I personally very worried about having to cut positions, but you also have to look at the retention capabilities of the staff we currently have. And I know it has been talked about in many meetings that the cost of hiring someone to fill that position can equally be 150% of what the actual position compensation base is. So I think it's really important that we look at the retention aspect. Yeah.
So, I mean, if you guys want to answer, you can. Yes, I can answer.
You go right ahead.
So option 2 does have some salary increase. I mean, it's not a flat.
So it's
but
not like a 2 or a 3, it's more on a range type scale?
No, that's more what it is.
Oh,
It's
okay.
not a freeze, though. It's not
Okay,
a 0%. I just want to be clear. But it doesn't, it just keeps us moving lower compared to our competitors
Okay.
who will be accelerating at a greater rate.
Okay, and so with that pay rate increase, is that merely inflationary? Or is that just what, as a district, we can afford?
That's what we can
Okay.
afford.
So I believe in that option 2 allows us to give a small increase to staff, where option 1 does not. Option 2 does not allow us to increase anywhere near where our people around us are, same as option 1. But there's something there.
It's not a freeze.
I just wanted to make sure all the people watching and who may turn in later could get all the info.
I think it's also important for people to understand that regardless of what happens with the referendum, the district's not going to just say, okay, great, we passed that, we're good now. We're going to continue to be reflective on where cuts can be made or combinations of things can be made. This isn't a, we're done looking at those things now. I think it's important to know that that will continue.
And that these were the worst-case scenario numbers, correct, Erin?
That's correct.
We wouldn't necessarily take the full amount every year.
Yeah, so the way that a referendum works is that if the voters approve a referendum, it gives you permission to exceed the revenue cap by a certain amount. It doesn't say you have to. You don't have to levy that amount if something would change and you wouldn't need to. And the district has done that in the past, where they have been given authority by the public to raise the revenue cap to a certain amount and spend up to a certain amount, and they have not spent all of it. So just know that that's the flexibility that you had should something change from the legislature or internally with other budget adjustments.
I also think it's important, and please chime in, the rest of you. I don't think anybody would say, yeah, option 3, we don't want that. Anybody would want to choose that option because it financially helps us out the most. However, we have sat and gone through the data for the last 3 months and looked at the comments and looked at the surveys and met with the public. And up to this point, the data says there is not enough support to pass option 3. Not that we wouldn't love that. I mean, that is a huge impact to me and my fellow colleagues. Of course we would love that. But to this point, the data isn't there.
Do you feel there would have been community, what's the word I'm looking for? Do you feel the community would be more inclined to go option 3 if it was non-recurring?
Yes.
Okay.
I also
There's head nods from the other members.
feel,
Okay.
and you guys can speak to this, I think that people know a lot more now about option 3 and the things that we are facing than they did 3 months ago.
So I think I want to highlight this because it's a common sentiment that I have heard largely since the feedback meetings. And I think it's important to acknowledge that, as with any survey, the survey is a point in time based on what people know then. There's no doubt that the response that we received from the community feedback meetings was very positive, and that there were people who have indicated that were they to fill out the survey again now, based on what they know, as well as some other changes, that they may vote differently. And so there is, I just want to acknowledge that, because I think it's important that the board's aware, if you are not, that there has been some movement in the recent weeks. And I think the challenge as a group is to try to quantify that. Because you can look at the results and you can see that, option 2 was 45% and option 1 was 50% as written, okay? All were recurring on the survey. And come to some conclusions, but that is a moving target, right? That was that point in time. Now, that is to say that I think people have a solid argument that there may be some movement from that to more support for the options, including option 3. I think there's a valid argument. Of course, we don't know what's going to happen in October. There's a lot of what ifs, and so ultimately the challenge that the group had and that you all have to a greater degree is, what is your risk tolerance? I think Angie said it well. Option 3 is the best for our students. I will say that over and over. Option 3 is clearly the best for our students. However, we need to, hear from our community in terms of what they feel they can afford and support. And that's that, what does your crystal ball tell you?
Could you do me a favor and just, for the public, explain the questions that will be answered in October so that the public understands what we're talking about?
Well, there's only a couple.
Yeah.
But there's one big one, and then there's the unpredictability of the economy.
Right.
And that is unpredictable. And, sometimes before an election, you have some surprises. And they don't work in your favor, and sometimes they do. One that could work in the favor of the taxpayer would be state aid. So we received the July 1st, or early July estimates from the Department of Public Instruction about what our state aid was. We had estimated, using rough numbers, about a $300,000 increase in state aid for this year. And that ended up, the initial estimates are $1 million. So if that would occur, if that was accurate, and in October we'll receive the final numbers, if those numbers were accurate as the estimates were projected, that would result in a significant tax lowering of the taxes. So on a $400,000 home, in year one only, each of those options would go down $100. So for example, let's use option 3, which is the largest option. That's a $432 increase on a $400,000 home as written. Well, now that goes down to $332. $332 is less than option 1 without any cuts. So that's a pretty significant difference between those things. Reminder, when state aid increases, it doesn't give the district more money. It provides tax relief for the taxpayer, which is important. We chose, as Amy mentioned, to take the most cautious approach because we don't want to come to the community and say, oh, it's only going to cost this much, and then in October we go, actually it's going to cost a lot more. We would much rather say, this is the option we're putting forward, this is what it costs, and in October say, good news, state aid came in higher, this is now what it's going to cost. So that's a risk, though, because we could, try to influence people's perspective with not being cautious.
So playing into that perspective piece, I just did some quick math, and the difference between option 2 and option 3 is a difference of $2.33 a month. Just a little FYI.
After the $100?
No, that's without the $100. So just going off of these numbers, looking at the first school year, we're looking at option 3, it's 1.9 million. Option 2 is 1.75. On a
Yep.
$400,000 house, it's 404 for option 2. Option 3 is 432. That equates to $2.33 a month difference.
In year one.
You can do a lot of good for our kids for $2.33 a month. Just saying.
Yes, so that's a major comment. I'm sorry, Craig, let me just get this out, sorry. I just want to say this. So what, thank you, sorry. So this is a point that has also been brought up, is that there's a sense that I'm not trying to advocate, I want to represent our group, and some of the things we discussed, because these are 4 amazing humans who are here talking to you, and there were a lot more at the meeting. And so one of the things that people have talked about often is the difference between the three options, you know, and that they're small. And you were just highlighting that point. That's at one perspective.
Yes.
Sorry, Craig, go ahead.
Well, counting on the legislature to keep a promise. Well, it's just what makes these kinds of decisions so incredibly difficult. We can talk all night about how fiscally responsible option 3 is, but option 3 is the most expensive. Maybe. Maybe option 3 is gonna, you know, with the increase in state aid that it has been suggested we may receive, then option 3 becomes the no-brainer, in my view. Again, counting on the legislature, especially regarding financing public education, has always been a crapshoot at best. And when you go 6 years out of 9 or 6 years out of 10, you know, with no extra increase, and we have to have all these decisions really made before that.
Yes.
So, all of us would love to think that the changing of the district lines, the public becoming much more engaged in terms of appropriate financing of public education, that, you know, I'd love to be optimistic, but the last 10 years have, each year made it harder and harder to be optimistic about the future of public education. Now I think maybe we have a chance. The state Supreme Court is different. The district lines are different. We've been assured that that will, in all likelihood, make a significant difference in our legislature, and, you know, maybe how they react around the funding of public education. So I think everybody knows that making a decision like this is always extremely difficult, made more difficult because of the failure of the April referendum. And I think one thing that we probably need to do is make doubly sure that our community understands the impact of a second failed referendum would be. There's been a district, fairly local, that failed 2 referendums. And this is more anecdotal, but they lost over 40 teachers.
And 45.
45 teachers. The impact, I can't even fathom the impact of losing 45 teachers. You lose 45 teachers, you lose not just that classroom teacher, but that club advisor, or that athletic coach, or that band leader. The morale in that school district was beyond description. And it went to everybody. And the students felt it too. And they walked around the school like zombies. That's not McFarland. That's not the education that I received. I graduated in 1971. It's not the education that my kids received. And I certainly don't want my grandchildren to receive anything less. That's the emotional side. But we'll we'll work hard and we'll make a decision that we feel is best for everyone. And we just ask for a little trust, maybe.
My question is this. It's unknown about the state
Yeah.
funding
The state
formula.
aid, yep.
That will know in October. Is that about? What's the disadvantage of not having a referendum in November, but having a spring referendum once we have all that information? So we
Well-
don't have to second guess.
Yeah. There's quite a few disadvantages to that, and some people have suggested that. The biggest one that comes to mind right off the bat is the concern about voter turnout. We are confident in November we're going to have the largest turnout that we can get. And I think, my perspective is that democracy is best when there's the most people making their voice heard. So by doing so, we would have the most people having the most input on the decision in November. That's certainly a consideration. Financially, we started the first year on July 1st. So we're already into that year. If we approve, if the voters approve a referendum in November, that money will be on this year's tax bill. If it's in April, it will not. And so we've then gone a year with a deficit, we've drained our fund balance that much more, and provided more, lastly, unpredictability. There's not any stability for our staff. So if I'm in a district that just failed a referendum, and now I'm going into April, which is past the hiring season for teachers, okay? February, March is when the hiring season starts. Actually, today I got an email from someone, I'm not going anywhere. But it's kind of all year round, but it is, like April, people will have left. I mean, just to be frank, if they don't know what the funding is, if they're gonna have a job, they're not gonna wait to find out on April 1st. It's April Fool's Day, by the way, when the election is.
And then if we do dip into the fund balance, we obviously lose that interest revenue as well, correct?
Yes, and we start paying.
And I raised the
interest.
question, just so that everybody knows.
Yes, yeah,
why
I know.
It's important to do it.
Yes.
Don't I, correct me if I'm mistaken, but by statute, you can only have 2 referendums in the same calendar year.
Correct, you could only have 2 questions, yes.
We had one on April
Second.
2nd. And this year's day is April 1st,
Correct.
correct? So that would be a second question in the same calendar year.
Which you can do if we don't go in November. What we can't do is go in November and go in April.
Okay.
We
Right.
can't go and fail in November and then go
And
again
come
in
back in
April.
April.
If it's the same calendar year, though?
Are you saying school
It's
calendar year?
within a calendar year.
Okay.
12 months.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
But, I mean, I think that's, a second or a third reason, or fourth.
I'd like to say something, if you don't mind. I didn't know
I
how-
wish you would.
No.
I didn't know how today was gonna go, so I kind of, Angie, this is bizarre, because I kind of did you, I always tend to see things. I came across some interesting quotes, and you know me, I love quotes, so came across, "A house divided against itself cannot stand." That's Abraham Lincoln, and of course, right out of the Bible. And that's, Craig, when you talk about, Fort Atkinson, if that fails, or if this were to fail a second time, the terrible thing is you finally will have neighbors not talking to neighbors. There'll be that kind of anger and bitterness. And we've got to avoid that. I mean, it's driving me crazy because we seem to, as a society, have gotten into this zero-sum game. It's like, if I win, you lose. If you win, I lose. I'm going like, wait, can we both win? Can we find something, a way to get that, to build a community? And so I want to start right off with saying thank you to all of you folks. It's been awesome. It's been fun for me to get to know you people. And there's just a lot of good folks in this community. And I think Lloyd Schneider would be really very pleased right now, because he in 1961 is the one who said, you know what? If we're going to have an identity as McFarland, other than being just a little suburb of Madison, we need to have a school system. And the people were willing to raise their taxes to get that school. And we've got an identity now. We've got to keep it going. We got to get rid of the rancor. It bothers me even at the village we're seeing this stuff. Some of the things that people are saying, you're talking to your neighbors for crying out loud. You know, it's like we're humans. We're doing the best we can. I start thinking about September 10th. That's going to be an important meeting. We're going to meet with the village, you know, the representatives from the district and the village board. And we just got to listen to each other. Here's another quote I came up with. This is Mark Twain. If we're supposed to talk more than listen, then God would have given us 2 mouths and 1 ear. I thought that was quintessential Mark Twain. So anyway, I just think, I'll come to another quote. This is what my mother always said. In fact, my son actually has this as a tattoo on his body. What goes around comes around. I would argue that we failed because we really didn't take the time to listen to the community. I'm sorry. And at the same time, I'm not sorry, because there's this sense that as you get older, you shouldn't have to learn these things. Well, that's, pardon my French, bullshit. Because I'm 70, well, almost 3. I'm 72, very close. But the truth is, you're going to keep on learning. And I want to thank you in particular. You kind of taking this a little bit on your shoulder, like this is your cross now you're carrying, because I wish I would have done that. The truth is, we didn't know. We've learned. What goes around will come around. So in a sense, yes, the reason it failed is because we didn't really listen the way we should have. But it gives me hope, because if we have to come back, if the legislature doesn't come through, if that veto that the governor has done, which is kind of like a burr under the saddle to some of the members of the legislature, and they want to remove it, they would have to kind of work a deal out with them, which could all benefit. But if that doesn't happen, then we're going to have to come back in a couple of years. And because we've listened, because we've opened the door, because we've treated each other like we're all part of the same community, I think we're in good shape. I think we have to just kind of keep going there. That optimism I have of those things, it's possible. I have some concerns. I'm very concerned about the fact that if we don't go to a reoccurring, we don't change our revenue cap. The revenue cap will only go up if we go to reoccurring. However, I'm a realist. There's part of me going like, I think I've heard pretty loud and clear a lot of people saying, I don't think it's going to go. And I think we've got to be realistic. I'm also concerned about not giving a raise, because I do know there is a shortage of teachers, and I do know about what's happened in other districts. And it's just simple supply and demand. And I'll kind of throw on that, the DPI said that in the last 20 years, teachers' salaries have declined at about 20%. So I'm going like, it's crazy. I'm one of the last of the teachers who could actually work as a teacher and survive on our income, on one income. My wife took 11 years off. Now, my father-in-law gave us the money to buy the property we have. We were able to fund the rest. But man, we drove around some pretty beat-up cars and kind of got things done. That can't happen. She scares the heck out of me. She's working 2 extra jobs. I was a weenie. I could never do it. My father-in-law says, could you maybe bag groceries or something in the summer? I said, Jay, I am so just mentally burned out. I need to have my summer and spend it with my children. I didn't even see them during the time because my wife was raising them. It turns out, I think we've got to be aware of that. And then option number 1, I woke up one morning. I guess I always love analogies. I love metaphors. But the truth is, I thought of it as, okay, we went over the fiscal cliff. We've gone down 12 feet. We're hanging on to a branch. And we're going like, help, okay? And we have people who are going like, we have good news for you. We'll give you 8 feet of rope. And I'm going like, well, that isn't going to help us. And if you want to be fiscally irresponsible, don't even bother with it. It doesn't help us. We need at least, 13 feet or something to get up, get out of here. And I don't know what that 13 feet is. You said it best, Craig, you said, we've got to find that sweet spot. And I think we're gonna really kind of have to look at this thing. And then my last concern is that we all of us in this room have to take a long view. Maybe it's because I'm a historian. You know, there's this, again, it's that zero-sum game. It's the idea of this, you know, I'm gonna get what I want, and then we're gonna celebrate, and we'll get in their face and let them know. But realize, you guys, in history, the idea of a Pyrrhic victory. You win the battle and you lose the war. I can see the yes people or the no people going, yeah, like this, and that whole school system or that whole community is just taken apart. We just need to do this. And then lastly, have faith, and this is my favorite quote by Abraham Lincoln. And he goes, with malice towards none, because there was a little civil war in our nation's history. And I don't want to think that we have had a civil war, because we haven't. We're still neighbors, and we're going to get along. We'll get through it. But he said, with malice towards none, with charity for all, with firmness in the right, and this is my favorite part of it, as God gives us to see the right. Have faith that we'll do the best we can. We got 5, well, at least 4. I can't speak for myself. But the other 4 are pretty remarkable people, and they all see it from a different perspective. And I think we can do it. As he said, let us strive to finish the work we are in. And I just think, basically, let's find that sweet spot that Craigie talked about. Gary, you told it to me the other day. You were sitting here. You know, what was it, the Wisconsin Manufacturers and Commerce, who said, McFarland, above-average schools for below-average costs. I think we can do it. We just got to find that way, and you got to have faith in us. So I apologize for going on, but I just had to say it. Oh, I will say one last thing. Excuse me. Sorry, forgive me. I really mean that. I'm sorry. But my goal is, and tell you the truth, is I want to win this thing 70-30. If we win 70-30, we can be pretty confident we can go back in the future and say, I think they believe in us. They have faith in us. So what does that take? You slam it down someone's throat, you're not going to win 70-30. You don't want that. You want to win 70-30. I used to tell my athletes, dream big. Really dream big. You go to state, win that state title. And I think that's what we need to do as well. We've got to dream big, and I think we can pull this off. So, thank you.
I feel like I should clap after that.
No.
Just to add on to Bruce a little bit, I've obviously, over the last few weeks or couple of months, there's been, I think, you know, Bruce probably used the right word, a tremendous amount of rancor in the village over various and sundry things. So I've gone to a couple of meetings that, in my view, went over the top, I think. But I came away knowing one thing, and as far as I've got a quote, but I don't know who said it. But I think it's pretty smart, and it's something that I've seen happen over and over again in the last, let's say, 3 months. Do you listen, or are you just waiting for your turn to talk? And I sat in that room a couple of different meetings, and people weren't listening. They just were sitting there waiting for their turn to talk, and they had made minds up. There was really, beyond the fact that you need to communicate these things, that was a 100% anti-crowd. And they were there for good reasons, sound reasons, but I think they acted inappropriately. And we need people to listen, really, really listen. And I think we've got a great story. It's not a story. It's reality. And our reality right now is something I never dreamt it would be here in this school. Our reality is that I've always felt that the school was the reason people moved here. if this referendum fails, school will be the reason people leave. I absolutely believe that. So, please listen, and please trust the people that are working so hard to do the right thing. We all want what's best for our kids and our grandkids. And the fact that that's in question is pretty remarkable, I think.
It's a balance. We've got to find that balance.
Absolutely is.
Well, and if I can chime in on this, this is actually a conversation I had with my husband earlier today, and he's sitting at home going, "Oh Lord, here she goes." You know, as we look at households and trying to stretch your dollars, you know, when it comes to the taxpayers with the referendum, regardless of what option we go with, we are going to ask them to stretch their dollars. And we're asking them to stretch their dollars for the good of our kids, because the kids are what matter. So, and this is more a comment to the board and the administration in general, is that we might have to take a very, very detailed dive into our costs, and not just our variable costs, but also our fixed costs, to see where we can help push our budgetary needle to control our household expenditures. Because if we're asking our taxpayers to do that, I think we need to do our due diligence with that as well.
Anybody else?
I would just say this, you know, listening to all this discussion, great discussion, by the way. You know, I came onto the board to help support kids. And you talk about, you know, we want to do what's best for kids. What my view best for kids might be different from Bruce's view. And I think we have to understand that. And I respect everything that everybody said here. And whatever we collectively come up with, I agree, this must pass. So we have to do all we can to get that information out between now and November, meet with different groups, answer their questions, listen to them to see what's, you know, any additional input or feedback that they would like to provide to us. Because it is imperative, if we're going to do what's best for kids, a referendum has to pass, regardless of what that referendum looks like.
I have been very quiet because it often takes me a lot of, I don't know, like 24 hours to process information. So I think I will have the words in about 24 hours to say. I don't know that I have anything to add to what we've already discussed. We have all the data. We have now, and I think we have done, I mean, I use the term "we" loosely, but Aaron, the district, the referendum engagement group has done an incredible job of educating and helping people understand where we are and how we got here. And I hope that we've reached enough people to move the needle to some acceptable referendum level. And I really wish we had data to, you know, to get that. Obviously we don't. I mean, that's the risk tolerance that we're talking about.
Well, if Aaron would just fix his crystal ball, we'd be set.
Do we know how many voters voted total in the referendum in April?
Yes, I mean, I don't have that memorized.
Okay.
Somebody in the crowd does.
4,800.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do we know the percentage of
60,
April
40.
turnout versus November turnout? Like just in general for an election?
Yes. So the fraction is over 90% of it.
Yeah, we typically, in a presidential election, will be in the 90% or more.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, it's, there was, I think, April is much less than there'll be in November. It was somewhat of a surprising number, I think, for April. I think it was.
I was gonna say, not to mention the ranch
Yeah.
and
Really
snowstorm.
makes it even
Right.
more
Yeah.
surprising, so,
Right.
I mean,
Ask the village clerk, she will tell you that it's the highest turnout they've had in years for spring
for
elections.
spring, yeah. We're the hot
Someone
ticket.
sitting there said that they had more than a third, which is rare, unprecedented.
Okay.
But then in election years in November, you have an even higher turnout.
Okay.
So just for the public, it's just that, yeah, April was a surprisingly higher turnout than typical, but much lower than what you'll see in November.
Okay. Well, and I think the last thing I will say that, again, people have already said, but my gratitude to the people in this room, to the people who have continued to show up and have civic engagement in respectful ways, that is something we really, really needed. And to reference what Craig was talking about, all of these issues, like ours, have brought light to other issues in our community and with the village, and people engaged there. And the village, Stephanie's public comment, highlighted that, like, they're listening and they're making changes to what they're doing to help take the pressure off taxpayers. And I think, this is preaching to the choir, I think all of you know this, but, to remember that all of us here, all of you, everybody engaging in this process is human, and I think we can get through any of it if we're kind to one another and respectful. And again, everyone in this room has been. I can attest to that. But I appreciate the engagement in the right and most helpful ways. Sometimes keyboard warriors disseminate a lot of information that's not accurate, and I appreciate everyone's help in getting the factual information out there.
This is probably a question for Craig and Joe. I think, a lot of the no votes, I think, were in protest for what's happening in the village as a whole, as far as the costs, uncontrolled costs. With the village trying to rein in some of their costs now, putting things on pause, do you think that will impact some of the previous no votes to swing it towards the yes votes?
I think maybe it will, and Joe, you can chime in. I would feel better about it if they had made a firm decision other than just suspending. Because I think some people will look at it and then go, okay, well, what does that mean? They suspended, they can still bring this back at any time, right? And maybe they will, or maybe they won't, I don't know. One thing it does strike me, though, is the conversation, and not to get too far away, but the conversation about there being more voters in November. I think that's probably true, but I also think it would be a mistake to assume that that means more yes voters. Because I've talked to a lot of people who the education we've done has made them more entrenched as no people, because they have a firmer understanding of, like, holy smokes. Like, they didn't really understand before, like, the magnitude of what that over the years. So I just want to throw that out there too. Maybe it will, but I do agree there will be probably more voters, but it doesn't necessarily, I just don't want us to make the mistake of assuming that means there are going to be more yes voters. Joe, did you want to jump in on the original? Sorry, I got a little off track.
Yeah, no, I think that my impression of what's happening in the village is going to make the voters hyper-vigilant. You are going to have a very strong message, a very directed message in terms of, why this is important, how you got to it, and in all due respect, I do not think you should be doing things like saying, well, this option is only 1% more than that option. That is not, we had those discussions and they didn't go well. Let me tell you that. I think what you need to do is you need to have your facts and information and understand what it means for the average voter, whether it's option 1, 2, 3, or some other option that you come up with. You have a number of things that you can work with. You have the number of years for the referendum. You have recurring, non-reoccurring. You have the actual amounts. You have a whole bunch of things that you can, move around. But at the end of the day, I think when you come up with your solution, it has to feel right. It has to be that sweet spot where you can say, okay, I think people can afford this. And whether it's 1% less or 1% more than option X doesn't matter. I think, don't go down that road.
The things that I have heard and learned in this journey is that there are people that are going to be no matter what. And there's some people that are going to be yes, no matter what. And it's really the people in the middle that you're more likely to connect with and learn from, and that's where that room is. And, just as, Craig's experience has been that he's heard some people that are, becoming even more entrenched in no, and I've, heard the opposite, right? I've heard people say, I was a no, and now I'm a yes. And so that's the, do you want to throw out your dice and, which is more? Again, the question is not what's best for our kids. That's clear. That option is established. So it's just a matter of what's clear and affordable.
I think it'd be a lot easier if this was the first go-around, right?
Yeah.
If this is the second one.
Oh, yeah.
Stakes are higher, yeah.
For sure.
Totally
Yep.
agree.
If we had another one, we could try immediately.
Yeah.
Well, and we've clearly learned so much. I mean, I'll be the first to admit that I was naive about the process and about how much we needed to engage the community first. And obviously, that's why we put all the effort into it,
Yes.
so that, I will take 100% responsibility for that, as my role as a board member. And it won't happen again. That's the benefit of learning from mistakes. So that, I wish it was our first go around with this much information. I think we'd know a lot more, and we might even have the opportunity to do another survey to, after we've done the education, now where are people at? But we don't have that, and we wouldn't want to spend our money on that anyway. So yeah, I appreciate that.
I want to kind of orient the board to logistics, because it's been a great conversation, and not to be flippant, but there's a little bit of admiring the problem that is inherent sometimes in these discussions, where, I just want to lay out some timelines for you. So, we talk about August 27th as being the last date that you can have a question. No, not really, because your question has to go through a process through legal counsel. It has to be vetted. And then there are a lot of logistical steps that we or Angie gets to do to make sure it shows up on the ballot and it's the words that you want and it's phrased in a way that people understand. So backing that up, our next school board meeting is August 19th. So the board's going to have to make some decisions about what you're going to do in that timeline. And, I've had individual conversations, I think, with most, if not all of you, about this, just to say that this discussion in open session is who you are. It's what you want. It's a level of transparency that you feel obligated and feel is ethically what you need to provide to the community and what the community deserves, and I admire that. It requires that you take advantage of every opportunity you have to do that, so that the public can have opportunities to provide feedback to you related to that. So that, whether that means having scheduling an additional board meeting, seeing what happens on the 19th and coming out of that. I'm feeling like tonight, so far, I didn't anticipate that you were going to make a decision tonight, but you still could. But you're going to have to feel the pressure of that. There is a sense of urgency.
So from the 8/19 to 8/27, does that give us enough time to get the referendum question vetted, gone through legal? That gives us enough time?
If you make a decision on August 19th, yes.
Okay, all right, just so we know.
I guess I'd like to see us conduct another board meeting, maybe a week from tonight, and focus on just
A week from tonight?
a week from tonight?
I'm not
Or
gonna
the
be
12th?
here. I can do it by,
I might have to do that virtually as well.
Well, maybe not. Then it'd be important for all of us to be here if we can be. But I would propose that we have another meeting before the 19th. Yeah, just talk about the pros and cons, how we're feeling, yeah, what we would really like to see versus the reality piece of it.
Can we do that in closed session, or does it have to be open?
Has to be an open.
Okay.
Open session, yeah.
Okay.
It should be open.
yeah. And Tom, I'm going with my daughter and her family, so I'll be gone. Jane and I will be gone all of next week. I'll be back on Saturday, the 17th. So, if we're gonna do something, it will have to be either tomorrow night, Wednesday night.
And you can't do it tomorrow night. You have to provide notice.
Oh, that's right,
Yeah.
because of notice, thank you. Yeah, so it'd have to be Wednesday.
And I'm gone.
Yeah.
Well,
So, and I personally, I would like to propose, I think it should be on the agenda on the 19th, and I think we should do our homework, and
it's incumbent upon us, I think, to meet at least another time
you do, okay?
in the next couple of weeks, and just make sure that we've all digested, all the things that we've heard and seen tonight. I know personally, I'm not ready to make a vote this evening. I think it would behoove us to make sure that we've got a good handle on what the community is feeling in terms of some of these major pieces of our decision. Because we have a big job. The April referendum wasn't close. I think ballpark, we have to change 500-ish minds. It's a big task, and we are gonna have to be at our very best, and we are just going to figure out a way to hammer this out, because we can't fail this referendum. We just can't. Go ahead.
So I think the other reason to not vote on it tonight is to, now that we've had the presentation and the recommendations from the engagement group, it would also give the public the opportunity to digest that information and provide any feedback, either in public comment or written public comment. Yeah, so it feels like we need to pick a date for another meeting before the 19th.
Undoubtedly. We'll do that.
Okay.
If everyone's agreeable, we'll do
Yeah.
that, and Angie can work her magic, and we'll get something figured out.
Okay,
Send us a doodle.
so we don't need to doodle.
Well, and then we need to make sure we inform the public, because the public will want to
Yep.
attend and provide
Absolutely.
comment
Well,
and.
it's, yeah, part of why we want to do it that way.
Yep. Yeah. I think in respect for everyone's time, I just can't thank you folks enough. The work that you've done is truly remarkable. You're just awesome people. You care. And I know you're right, Craig. 1,000%. Because you voted no does not by any stretch mean that you don't support these schools. I just am a firm believer that 9 out of 10 folks in this village who pay attention understand how important this decision is, that this is life-changing. I've got family who say if this referendum doesn't pass, their kids are going elsewhere. That would break my heart.
That's why you must, whatever we come up with, must be considered a win-win
Yep.
for all stakeholders.
I don't know how to thank you. It's been amazing. Still hard. But at least we know we've got an idea. Thank you.
If you would have told me that many people would show up week after week, they kept coming back, and every time, that's how we welcomed, was like, why do you keep coming back?
It was painful.
Yeah.
I don't doubt it a bit.
It's a motley crew of people. I mean, it really is so smart, so invested. And if you would have said, you should ask these people to come for all these hours, and they'll do it, I would have said, no way. No, I wouldn't do it, you know?
Did you bring donuts?
No, we can't afford that. You know, truly, they just kept coming back. We didn't have water for them. I mean, it was an hours. Tornadoes.
That is dedication, all right?
Yeah, I mean, it's a special group.
You guys out of here, if you want to go.
I mean, you can
Welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting.
But, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you so much.
Thank you. To be continued, to be continued. You're welcome to stay. It's not going to be quite as much fun. Oh, what are we doing? Oh, school board member office hours. Yeah, we don't need to do anything else.
Yeah, because we're not making a motion, but do we have to table it?
No,
Do we have to do anything like that?
We just don't have to, we don't have to do anything.
because it's possible action.
Right.
Okay, all right.
So,
All right.
moving on, we will go to the next discussion item, which is school board office hours.
I can start that one
Why don't
off.
you?
We have on here about sharing the response and what has been learned so far. Also, I wanted to also use this time tonight to just hammer out a few logistics. They've been great so far. I've really enjoyed them, honestly. Even if no one comes, I get to talk to Bruce for a long time. But we've always had people show up. We've always had people show up. And you and I have been partnered most of the time for just random
Could we shut that
schedule things.
Thank you.
Thank you. So Bruce and I were talking about the different locations, and I have the spreadsheet up right now. And we were looking at different dates. And again, the hope is to have one-ish in a week, per week. It's not always working out that way. We have August 12th, 5 to 7 p.m. We don't have a location, and we need to confirm who else might be able to do that.
I can't be there.
I can do that one.
And you, what did you say, Tom?
I'm available.
So that's next Monday, okay. So that's great.
Should we try to schedule a board meeting first?
Yeah, so, we can put this in as tentative.
Yeah.
That was one of the rare dates that was even close with the doodle that I put out for the work session. It's
Okay.
really tough between now and, earliest was like the 20th, which we didn't vote for that.
Yeah.
There are
Is that what we ended up with?
Yeah, there are no slam dunks, just for everybody's.
Even
And-
weekends?
I never asked about weekends.
I think we
That-
should ask about weekends.
Okay. Bruce, when do you leave? Sorry.
I'm leaving Friday morning and I'm coming back on Saturday, so I'll get home around 6 on Saturday. That would be the 17th.
Yeah.
What time is the work session?
On the 20th?
5.
5 days.
5
5
to
to
8. Mhm. And that's after the next board meeting.
Are you saying we should try to move the boards or the work session up?
No.
Oh, okay, okay.
Nope.
Thinking about a
I
time
was just
for
saying, that was
another
already
board
after the
meeting.
next scheduled board
Could you
meeting, which you
change
were.
that to the board meeting? Is that possible?
I think that's
We
not
would need
enough time.
action to change a regular board meeting. It would be a special meeting.
Well, I'm saying, could we have the regular meeting on the 19th? Can we have it, that other one on the 20th, since we have it? As much as I think it's important we have a work session, I think the work session could be pushed off at some point.
I
I
thought
see
we were
what you're
saying to
saying.
try to do another board meeting before the
Before the
19th.
19th.
to
Yeah.
get-
Is that what you wanna do?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think we have to.
We start getting really tight on paperwork
Okay.
timelines for
Okay.
getting everything filed appropriately.
Yeah, I think the 19th is
Alright.
really,
It really
to
needs to
be
be our,
honest, the last date.
Okay,
Mm-hmm. So
okay.
we really need to try to figure out something in the next 10 days,
Yep.
at the very least. Okay. Well, we can table the discussion, or maybe we just try not to do office hours in the next 10 days then?
I think that would
That
probably.
feels like,
Well, I think once
I mean,
we,
feedback, it would be ideal to still have one for an opportunity for people to talk to us.
Can't we have one on the 12th?
Well, if that's one of the days for the,
Yeah.
that could work for an
What do we need to do to
additional.
figure out when the board, can't we decide the board?
We can decide the
Let's-
board now, can't
Let's
we?
do it. Let's do it now.
We should do it this week.
Let's not do a doodle.
and I'm gone starting Wednesday.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
So are people able to join virtually?
The only day I am not
That's what-
able to join virtually is the 13th.
It's a Tuesday, isn't it?
Yes.
I could do it Tuesday evening.
Yes, like I'm a hard no presenting in a bunch of like
On the
150.
13th, that's the one you can't.
I cannot do it.
That's the only one that's not available.
So
Yeah.
was the 12th one that people could attend virtually?
Well, I can definitely attend virtually.
I can attend virtually.
Okay.
How about you, Tom, on the 12th?
He's here the 12th, I think.
Yeah.
No, I don't get back
Oh, no,
to the
no, no.
13th.
That's right.
So it'd be like 3 virtual members?
Yeah, that's,
I mean, it's not ideal, but.
What about Sunday, the 18th, right before our next board meeting?
But is that really giving us enough time then? Because it's still like right up against the 19th, right?
Well, it gives us time to discuss it.
Could we do a board meeting on the 15th?
I could.
And those that can come virtually? Because I mean, that would give us 4 days before.
I can do it on the 15th.
I mean, I've got bocce. I'm just kidding. I will not go to bocce. That would work for me.
Is there anything in the community we need to be aware of?
Wait, no, I'm out of town on the 15th.
I
But
can,
I could
I'm
do
on from
vir-
5 to 6. As long as it's not from 5 to 6, I'm scooping. at
Way to
Nelson's.
scoop.
You're
Scooping
scooping.
at
Now all of a
Nelson's.
sudden I have,
Where are you scooping now?
and I
At
scoop.
Nelson's.
Yeah.
So are we good with the 15th?
I will have to attend virtually then.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
okay.
No, let's not do it if you can't. You gotta have everyone here.
I think,
But we
I think
can't.
we're not gonna.
No,
get-
no, but at least virtually, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so I
Oh, you
can, I
can't?
can.
Oh, you
I
can
am
make it
able to,
virtually. Okay, I
yes.
thought you said you couldn't.
Can you
This-
do it?
Now we're close enough, I can hit you. Bruce.
Yeah, that's why we spread you two out.
Bruce, can you do it virtually?
Yeah,
On the
I mean,
15th?
the trouble is, it's virtual.
17th?
It's Irish Fest, but
Yes!
if we can do it in the morning,
You got me.
That'd be
I'll tell
great.
you that.
That is
Wow.
Irish Fest weekend.
Are we gonna have people want to
Here?
come to a board
You
meeting
go every year?
On
on a
Saturday.
Saturday morning?
3 or 4
I
days.
grew
No.
up at Irish Fest.
I
Are we
can't.
setting ourselves?
Oh, and Friday night, just an FYI, on the 16th, there's a football scrimmage. It's the first varsity football scrimmage on the 16th.
It sounds like
Why,
the
they start early?
15th is our
They
best
start
option.
earlier and earlier.
15th?
It sounds like the 15th is our best option.
That's a Thursday?
That's
it.
Thursday and with just one
I
calling
can do it.
in? Just Bruce
Yeah.
would be the only,
I would be virtual also.
you two would be?
You can't hit me then.
I don't think it's ideal, but if that's what works, let's get it scheduled,
Okay.
Yeah.
okay?
If-
there a time that he
So after 6? Right, because you said you're busy from 5 to 6.
Yeah, I mean, I would just recommend doing 7.
That's
All right.
what
Okay.
that's the best
That's
time.
what people
for
are
me.
used to.
Yeah.
7 on the 15th.
Yeah, my point, I think then in that sense, we're probably likely saying that you're not gonna take action that night,
No.
Correct.
that you're planning to have discussion again and take action on the 19th?
Yes.
Yes.
Is that what you're saying?
Mhm.
I say this because people are worried. Well, everybody's worried all the time, but, I mean, they're specifically, we're worried about a decision being made tonight. And then they'll specifically be worried that you're gonna make a decision on that night. And I think having some clarity does actually, people feel like, okay, I can come on the 15th, I can say what I need to say. You don't have to wait for a meeting to share your perspective. You can email, reach out to the board members anytime. However, I do think that if we can lay out that clear timeline.
And actually, that may work really well for the paperwork side of things, because
Mhm.
if there was a potential question that was kind of clarified at that meeting.
Yeah, some
And then we
ideas.
would have some time to get together the paperwork to implement, starting on the 19th, should the action be taken.
Like you can narrow it
Yeah,
down a
start
little
Yeah.
bit to a
Yeah.
couple of
I see
ideas.
A
what
couple
you're
of
saying.
ideas, we could work
So that
with
still
that.
helps with that. That's
It
good
would
to know.
absolutely
Okay.
help with that.
But
Yeah.
we must make a decision on the 19th.
Yes.
Yes.
Really?
Yeah.
Unless you wanna
No,
set us up.
no.
I'm tired of losing sleep over this, folks.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay,
November 6th,
okay, so the 15th.
that's what we'll see.
15th, 7 PM, I will be
Okay,
putting together a
good.
special meeting.
thanks.
Fantastic.
So then,
I probably should be there.
Well, you're
So-
scooping too, so I mean, like.
Yeah, I'll
You're
be
gonna be right
post-scoop.
here.
I could bring something?
Yeah, bring some ice cream
His
for us.
forearms are gonna be open to
right,
go,
okay, got it.
Always ready to scoop.
and now I
I
have.
don't know why I
You
said
you
that.
could always bring the ice cream with you.
7 p.m.
I'll pay for it. Okay.
Maybe I'll make lasagna for everyone.
Mmm,
At 7
yummy.
o'clock at night?
Oh, I cook all the time.
Sounds good.
Okay, so then, that means that the 12th
Is open.
is still open for office hours if Howry and Mooney are still able to do
I
that.
am,
I am.
but where is it going to be?
That's the question.
Would you let us know sometime before the 12th?
Can we just talk about it now?
Yes.
And
Yes.
decide?
Are there places that would be easier logistically to just, that they'd be okay with us doing it?
Yeah, I mean, the,
'Cause I don't know that we have to go to the Pleasant Springs
No
I
one's
agree.
there.
Village
No, I-
Hall
it
or
was
even
just-
Dunn.
Yeah, right.
Here's a question.
It's just nice
go
to
for it.
offer that opportunity.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, for potential engagement.
Okay, so don't laugh. Tom, how was your time at McFarland Tavern when you went there?
I didn't go.
No, I
That was
did.
Bruce and I.
Oh,
Can
how
I
was
just-
it?
It was okay.
Do we wanna spend our time
Oh, that's a good
tonight
point.
talking about location? Could that maybe be done offline?
Yeah.
Well, not only that, but I would propose that we not do the 12th, because after we have the question formulated
That's what I.
that week, then we have something to share with the folks that attend the sessions.
Well,
Does
I
that make
think it-
sense?
But she's really
Yes, and
innocent.
I think
It gives
the
them-
community received new information tonight. I know that not a lot of it was new to us, except for, at least to me, it didn't feel like it was new, except for the recommendations. But for the community, a lot of it was new.
That would give
I
Yes.
us a
think.
chance.
Yeah,
So that would give them an additional chance.
yep, you're right.
Before that.
I just don't know that you wanna spend your board time in, talking about locations and throwing out different locations,
True.
including local establishments.
I like that idea.
Okay.
Let's just do it offline.
Yep.
How
All
about,
right.
okay, how
Well,
about
it's,
this then?
it's Craig and
Wait.
I doing it, right?
Yeah, so why don't you two
So
decide?
we'll just figure that out.
All right.
And just let us know.
Okay.
Because I'll have to, and if you can do it in the next couple of days, because then I will update the graphics.
Sure.
But I'm not here the 12th.
You're what?
I'm not here the 12th.
You're not
Still
back
gone.
Just kidding.
Sorry about that.
Howery, you want to do it on your own?
Sure.
Oh.
Sure.
I will start to put my weight soon.
Wait.
Hey, if you want, I could do 5 to 7 with you
Well,
on Monday, the 12th.
what am I gonna say? No?
Well, I'm just saying, you could be like, no, I don't want to hang out with you, but,
No, that'd be fine.
okay.
All right.
All right, you
Okay.
guys
And
figure out.
you and I will set up.
Howard
figure it
and
out.
Chapman will figure out the thing. Okay.
I'll get it up.
I have also updated for the other thing I want to get out there is that there are dates on there for the 28th and the 29th. Because, as Bruce and I were talking, those are both photo days at the high school. And
Yeah.
it might be a really good opportunity.
Great idea.
Even if we all take an hour at some point, photo day runs 10 to 7 on both those days. If we all took an hour and at different points in the day.
And it's district-wide, right?
And it is district-wide,
Correct.
all at the high school. So I think it's a really good opportunity.
It's a great idea that you had.
And then,
Really good.
thank you. And then, the 29th is one of the last music nights at the cafe that have been really well attended. And so having one in the evening on August 29th there might be a good idea.
Oh, at McFarland House?
Yeah.
Okay,
So-
tell me when you need me.
Yeah, well,
August
pick-
28th.
Or we can figure that out
yeah.
offline.
Yeah,
Yeah.
do you want,
Okay.
yes, so this, do you have access to the spreadsheet?
I don't think I've seen the spreadsheet.
Okay.
The spreadsheet's great and it's updated. I already updated Craig and my stuff.
Okay.
Okay, I will make sure
Okay.
that you have it, Tom, and then if you have any questions or want to talk offline, let's
Yeah,
do that.
okay.
Okay. Did anyone want to share themes or anything? I know we took more than the 10 minutes, so maybe we don't want to spend any more time on it, but themes or how it's going. I feel like I feel like it's been super beneficial, whether people actually come or not.
I do
mean,
too.
people have. I also think that we're hearing the same things that I'm hearing at the office hours are all the same things that we're hearing here, so I don't really feel like I need to discuss them anymore.
Yeah.
I'm just grateful people are appreciating them and
They sure are.
attending.
They really are. It's a great idea.
Yeah, so, okay.
So, okay, how about district administrators report?
Hello, my name is Aaron Tarnitzer. I'm the superintendent of the McFarland School District. I have a report for you. Summer school. I'm going to tell you a little
Yes.
bit about summer school tonight. So summer school, continue to offer that for our students entering grades 1 through 5 in June and July. Camp Kindergarten, of course, just wrapped up. And we also have some opportunities for our older students. SPA, Speed, Power, and Acceleration, is one of the main things, and then band and orchestra lessons. So those occur as part of our summer school programming. So looking at the grades 1 through 5 program, so we continue that format that's had a lot of success. It runs very smoothly. It's our third year of the format. So students, they're grouped by grade, and they come and they rotate through reading, math, writing, related arts, recess as a class group. And that has been, I think, a really efficient model. It provides for, more simple transitions for kids as opposed to, that kind of, I'm a class over here and then a class and then I got a gap in my schedule. And so that continuity has really helped, both for students and for teachers. And to that end, we are really able to hire our teachers. And so we hire, these teachers that teach in June and July. It's that consistency that really helps. We had 277 students in June, 254 in July. There's 2 different sessions for that group. That's 23 teachers, plus educational. It's very consistent. Our numbers are very consistent. I think the importance of having a predictable program is going to keep those numbers reliable. Special thanks to our.
Move back? Summer school?
I don't think a decision has been officially made. I mean, likely, we moved it, so the question is it was moved to Conrad Albion Primary School this year, and due to the construction at Wabisa, which is going along wonderfully, by the way. Will it move back? Possible, certainly likely. I think a decision about that has not been made officially.
The nice thing about Camp Kindergarten is that
Yes, that'll
they get
always
into
be
their classroom areas early, so they're already familiar with that.
Yes, that'll always be it.
Okay, good. Another incidental benefit, when I was talking to some summer school teachers up there, is that we have teachers like from Wabisa, even the middle school, teaching younger students.
Right.
And it's a real eye-opener, and they've
Yeah.
gained, at least, the 3 or 4 I talked to, deeper appreciation of what all kids are about and what all teachers do, especially if they've dropped down 2 or 3 grade levels from what they normally teach.
Right.
So
That's some good
I
advantages.
love that benefit.
appreciate Kelly Vetter for her leadership as the summer school principal. We also had Leah Lackey, who was just here a little bit ago. She volunteered at summer school and provided behavioral support. She's in the process of obtaining her administrator certification. But thanks to Brooke Hauser and Greg Nelson, Corey Shevchik as well, all supporting summer school, including crosswalk duty. So a special shout out to our 2 board members / crossing guards, Tom Mooney and Megan Fessler.
Very good.
I wish I could have done it more often.
It's
Yeah.
fun.
It is fun.
Appreciated it, and everybody made it safely across.
And a lot of the crossing guards make it fun, too.
They do.
And they really needed crossing guards
They
at
did.
the
Yeah.
intersection.
They did,
True.
especially
True.
with the construction.
It is a hectic, like, 8 minutes.
I was going to say
Yeah.
10, 15
It's
minutes, it's
fast.
chaos.
Rush hour.
Very much.
Yes.
Camp Kindergarten, that was over the last 2 weeks, of course, and as Tom mentioned, they're going through their routines and the spaces that they'll be, so it's a great
It
way
is.
to, and it eases a lot of anxiety
It does.
from, not just for
Bless
the
you.
students. Not just for the students. So we had 124 students enrolled in Camp Kindergarten and 7 teachers. 2 also taught in the afternoon.
How many are in the class?
Well, I don't know, do the math.
It's got to be,
Oh, in that total group.
Yeah.
Kindergarten enrollment.
Yeah, we're in the upper 136. That's Jeff, 136, sound good for kindergarten? That's hot off the press.
that's great attendance, no
Yeah.
matter what.
137?
Yeah.
137,
And you got
excuse me,
120 something?
137, yeah, so.
That's
so
great.
nearly everybody.
Yeah.
Nearly everybody, which there's a lot of logistics that families have to do to accommodate that schedule. Yeah, and then Brooke and Greg, I mean, Greg does such a great job organizing it, as does Brooke, and leading the group. Those 2 are out there, dynamic duo, really making Camp Kindergarten a success. We went there, district office went there to help, and we were sort of just admiring everybody's great work. So that was really, and I heard a lot of positive comments. Also, special thanks to Emily Broom. She is our 4K coordinator and provides a lot of support and communication throughout that process. Thank you especially to Melissa Foll for organizing the whole thing, and Carly Cherrick, who is also McFarland grad and an outstanding staff member who works as the assistant, and great attention to detail. Coming up, we got SPA coming up in the lessons, which will continue. So that's summer school. Then also, I want to do just one quick little recognition before I jump into a few photos. Is one of the things I want to do over the summer is give you some numbers, throw some. Last year we did, and this is one that is so important and means a lot to our teachers, and that is our guest teacher, our substitute teacher program. So, we've been using ESS as our provider, and just want to highlight the success that we've had with ESS. So this past year, they increased their fill rate from 84% to 90%. So that means 90% of the requests for a guest teacher come in. So they filled 3,208 out of 3,556 requests. 3,556 requests. That's amazing.
Which is amazing, and
Yeah.
also, I mean, so that's great, that impacts students, and also having that great partnership means that our teachers, like, that helps with morale, because when our teachers are able to take a day, whether it's expected or unexpected, and know that their classes can be covered, like, that's.
Essential.
Or not have to cover something.
Not have to cover, yeah.
Right.
Lose their
right,
prep period
that's
and
really
grading
important.
and everything else.
Yep, which still happens. I
Yeah,
don't want to
Right,
pretend like
right.
it does not
No.
happen, because it happens more than any of us would like.
Right.
And it's a real team. I mean, Sam does an amazing job here coordinating it all, onboarding the staff. A special shout out to our building administrative assistants,
Yeah.
who are really that first impression.
There's got to be a lot of moving parts.
Yes, it is a
Done
lot.
quickly.
And neighbor teachers who stop over and check in, and that's why subs come back here, because they feel supported. So I wanted to highlight that.
Not only supported, but respected also.
Yep.
Undoubtedly.
And then just have a couple quick photos that are gonna add to the summer school story. Favorite seasons. What? Summer one.
I wonder why.
I'm actually more of a fall person, to be honest, but that's the football
Same.
in me. But that's good. Doing some art projects. That incorporation of related arts is just so brilliant to have that rotation in there for them.
I saw some of those come through the crosswalk. They were so cool.
Yeah, the crosswalk.
Yes.
Funny. Some educational games, right? Learning can be fun too. You see them doing little shapes.
I want to go to summer school.
Yeah.
There we
See
go.
the work, I mean, this is old news, you know, this has been updated since, so that was at that point in time, but that park is really making progress, it'll be ready. The playground part will be ready for school to start, and then the inclusive park section will be ready a few weeks later.
I drove by today and there's a lot of work going on.
Yeah, it doesn't look like that. No, it's
No,
amazing.
that doesn't look like that at all anymore.
Yeah, and I love this, the orchestra students doing some, free show. I'm not sure what they got in tips there, but we're gonna assume they opened up the case and helped the budget.
Wasn't a student playing the keyboard during the lunch period at Wabisa?
Yes,
I saw that on Facebook today.
yes, that was
I
the.
don't know if that was an old
yeah,
picture or-
It was. They're doing throwbacks of the most popular posts of the
Okay,
year.
yeah.
so.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, I think that's it. So just a couple photos. Do the board members have any recognitions before I go to upcoming dates?
No.
Rose, oh, go ahead.
Oh, I mean, I already really did mine. I really do appreciate the community and the stepped up engagement. And then our partners at the village, even though there were two distinct authorities, our work together really impacts taxpayers. And I appreciate that people have all come together to listen to each other.
And there's genuine, good feelings between the two boards, and that's not something that's always existed, even in the relatively near past.
Yep.
So I think this village board and this school board is making remarkable strides in terms of at least both being on the same page.
Yep.
Yeah. I just want to acknowledge the teaching staff and school staff here in the district. I have lost sleep over this whole referendum piece. I can't imagine what teaching staff have done about it. So the quicker we can seek a win-win resolution, people can rest hopefully more comfortably.
I would like this to be in the rear view mirror myself. This is difficult times,
Very much.
but this is a district and a group of people that can handle difficult times. We'll be all right.
And just to add to that, actually, I don't know who the community member was, but in some of our community groups, on the popular thread, someone said, let's remember that our school teachers are part of our community and not, be careful of what we say on social media, et cetera. And I want to thank someone for pointing that out, because it's lost sleep, and it's, our educators are in our community, and there's some really hurtful things that are said, so
Granted.
let's remember that.
It's
What's the rule that
unfortunate.
they teach at school, right? Isn't there an acronym? Like, about how, what you say on social media? Like, things.
It never goes thing. away.
Well, yeah, that's true.
There's the think, but I
think
can't
it's
remember
think.
what they all
I
stand
know.
for.
If you wouldn't say it to their face, don't say it.
Yes, and I think, it is important to acknowledge that, right? And a level of civility, I think Craig said it really well earlier, and I know the village board has been taking a lot of hits.
Yes.
And I know we've been on the other side of that too, and I just have such empathy for them, and the community too. that people are just struggling, and I think I'm hopeful that what has been modeled is, we can listen to each other without yelling. Actually, we listen a little better when people don't yell, and we hear you. Just let's know that everybody, it's interesting because all of you do this because you care. I mean, you don't get anything. You don't have a personal interest in all of this. You're just trying to make McFarland the best place you can be. It can be. And so, I just have great respect for people and know that sometimes, I'm going to make mistakes and you're going to make mistakes, but we're doing our best.
Well, and I think it's important to point out that I'm pretty darn proud of our village board too. I don't know how they sat through a couple of those meetings. I honestly don't, but they did. And when they did speak, they spoke professionally, and they did it with courtesy. And they've shown that they will listen to the public and react. Listening shouldn't be hard. Sometimes it is, but reacting, maybe even backing off some of the decisions that you've made previously is not an easy thing for a board to do. So for all the shots that they've taken, I think they deserve some kudos for responding to the community engagement, regardless of whether it was done with civility or not.
And Craig, you deserve
Absolutely.
kudos for going to that as our board president. That's wonderful that you went to those things, because I remember talking to you about the whole thing. So thank you for your time.
Certainly.
When in doubt, stay classy, McFarland. All right, so upcoming events, that's my segue. Tomorrow is our A-Council kickoff for the school year.
Really?
We're gonna do that in the afternoon, the administrative team, and then we're gonna do it the following morning. So we don't have to spend too long together in any continuous time. And then on Thursday, we're providing a restorative conferences training for our administrative team and student services. So that's facilitating restorative conferences. So Brett Jondal and I will be facilitating that training for our staff at a reduced rate. Just joking. We both have training and expertise to share. And then next week, the 13th, is our district school improvement meeting. So we met as a group in June, and now this is the second half to that. Most of that time is in their buildings, but we do some district things too. That's a new model brought back this year. Then next week, we have a K-12 equity seminar. The morning's just administrators, and then the afternoon is with staff, and we've got some outside presenters coming in. And then that night is not only the open house at Nelson's, where you can come and get ice cream, you can also come to a school board meeting. That was just scheduled. And then the 19th is the follow-up board meeting, and then new staff orientations on the 22nd. Staff come back, all of them come back on the 26th. The district welcomes in the middle of the day. We're changing that, so we're going to send some information out to people. Instead of first thing, we want people to kind of ease back into the day, and I'm sure there'll be some surprises. And then Picture Day is coming up, the 28th and 29th. And then the Welcome Back nights happen. The high school, the K-8 schools also have those. And then our first day of school for K through 7 and 9 through 12 is September 3rd. And then the next day is for K and 7th and 8th grade. It's a reminder, our 6th grade only on the first day of school. Yeah, so that concludes my report.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Action on 2023-2024 budget changes. Jeff, are you going to help us out with this?
Sure, if there's questions.
Thank you. I would look for a motion to approve the 2023-24 budget changes.
I make that motion.
Megan C. And a second.
I'll second.
Tom, discussion?
I like the way you laid it out, Jeff. It's easy to understand.
True.
Thank you.
Isn't it?
I will just comment that all of these are due to grants that change at the final end, and we have to have our grants match what DPI has in their system. So that's why you might see some large amounts in left, the furthest left dollar count, then the middle one. But the change is what you're really looking at.
Yeah.
I know they're all grant related, so we have to have these approved before we have our fun audit next week.
That starts next week?
Starts next week and it'll conclude with a report in December, so it's a process.
Yep.
Just a small process.
Yeah, and the budget reconciliation this is an annual thing that we do at
Right.
this time of year.
Yep. Any other discussion? Hearing none, those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0 unanimously. Designation of fund balance for the 2024-2025 school year. That's a carryover from the 2023-2024 school year. Do I have a motion to approve?
I'll move to accept the administrative recommendation to designate certain 23-24 unused funds to restricted fund balance for the 24-25 school year, as is included in the attachment.
Thank you, Megan F. Do I have a second?
I can second that.
Bruce, discussion. Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously 5-0. Action on approval of second reading and adoption of policies. 0100, definitions. 0122, board powers. 0144.3, conflict of interest. 0171.3, clerk. 2413, health education. 2460-03, independent educational evaluation. 5517, student anti-harassment. 5610, suspension and expulsion. 6325, procurement, federal grants and funds. 7440, faculty facility security. 8120, volunteers. Do I have a motion to approve second reading?
So moved.
Tom, thank you. Do I have a second?
I can second it.
Megan C., discussion. Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously, 5-0. Action on approval of first reading of policies. 3431, short-term leaves of absence. 4431, short-term leaves of absence. Okay? 5430, class rank. 6610, non-district supported student activity accounts. 6611, district-supported sponsored student activity accounts. Why are they repeating like that?
They repeat when they're the different codes.
Gotcha. Okay. 7540,
same thing, just for
technology.
different-
7544, use of social media. 8310, public records. 8330, student records. 8431, preparedness for toxic hazards. 8700, nursing mothers. Lactating employees. 9130, public request, suggestions, or complaints. 9140, citizens advisory committees. 3120.08, employment of personnel for co-curricular, extracurricular activities. Do I have a motion to approve?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Megan. Megan C. Do I have a second?
I can second it.
Megan, yeah. Discussion?
Yes, I have a question under Board Policy 3120.08, employment of personnel for co-curricular/extracurricular activities.
Oh, that one, the extra one.
In the fourth paragraph, last sentence, it talks about eliminating co-curricular committee and replacing it with administration. What's the rationale for that?
Yeah, that's actually this policy is just reflecting current practice.
Okay.
That committee was disbanded a couple of years ago.
Okay.
And the rationale for that was the committee really didn't have any authority in the sense of when that committee was initially developed, there was funds to be allocated,
Yeah.
and there are no longer funds to be allocated.
Okay.
So what was happening was you'd bring this committee together and someone would bring, let's say, a $400 per year position forward. And the committee would approve it and say, okay, administrator, now figure out how you're gonna pay for it. It seemed, like out of all of our hiring, it seemed like an unnecessary step. Whereas a building's bringing it forward, they bring it forward to their principal, then and then the principal says, this is how I'm gonna fund it. And typically those positions, because there aren't a separate like co-curricular fund, it's within a building fund, typically they fund that through attrition. So one club, you know, dissolves because people aren't attending that anymore, or it's no longer relevant, and so then they add to another. Sometimes principals will choose to take it out of their building level site budget and make cuts in other areas.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was this committee that had like a board member and it just seemed like an unnecessary,
Yeah.
it
Okay.
was very performative. Maybe that
I was just curious.
Yeah, it was like unnecessary bureaucracy.
Anything else?
Oh,
Go right ahead.
all of the, for any of them?
Yeah.
Do we want to walk?
Do you want to go through 'em?
Yeah,
Okay.
Just to make sure.
I don't have a lot, but there were a couple.
Okay. 3431, short-term leaves of absence. 4431, short-term leaves of absence.
Yes, so, a couple of things with, I know that we're just trying to make things gender neutral, in all of this, so I was wondering if we want to change the language. It appears in number 2 and maybe number 3, where it says, immediately before or after the death of a brother or sister. We could just say sibling.
Oh, sibling.
Sibling.
Okay, so.
And then also
You
for-
said 2 and 3, I don't know where that is.
I'm sorry, on page 1.
Okay,
I think.
got you.
Yep, and then in number 3, brother-in-law, sister-in-law, you know, could be sibling-in-law. like.
Yep, got you.
While you're on that page, there's a typo where sick leave is, after number 1, it says 96 hours of sick leave. It should be sick
leave.
I love some good sick leave.
It's a new term.
Under number 1, you said?
Sorry, I didn't mean if you.
Oh,
if I was
under
gonna-
emergency?
Nope, that's
Yeah.
good, that's good.
Yeah.
The other thing I wanted to specifically say about the changes that we see in the emergency personal leave, the changes that are being made were very heavily discussed, correct me if I'm wrong, at the employee relation committees over the last year, to both clarify and figure these things out, right?
Yeah, so this
Okay.
policy not only reflects changes recommended by Neola, but that also reflects changes that the Employee Relations Committee approved in our handbook.
Yeah.
So now they're
Yep.
aligned.
Yep.
Significant
So,
changes.
Such interesting conversations.
That makes sense.
Staff-driven.
That's all I have for those.
All right. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by
Did you
saying
want to go
aye.
through any other policies, or?
Oh,
Oh, I thought you said you were done.
I'm sorry, I was done with that policy.
I apologize. Go ahead.
Okay.
So what's next?
5430?
5430?
Yeah, class rank.
Can we just go through all of them? I just want to make sure
Yep,
people have.
yep.
Okay.
5430. Yeah, 5430 is the next one. I think this is class rank. I don't know that I have a specific thing about the policy, though. Just that this has come up a lot. And so I'm curious to discuss it more at a future thing, because I think the policy doesn't, I think there are some concerns that it does, like with the weighting of certain classes.
Yeah, we don't.
And we don't, yes. What's the rationale there?
So, that we haven't weighted classes for an extended period, and
Yeah.
that's becoming not typical in
Yeah.
education. And the rationale is that what ends up happening is that you have people taking classes just for purposes of weighting, and that can, skew people's performance.
Right.
So, that's become more customary, but, I'm wondering, all of this, the only reason people are paying attention is because of the direct admit
Right.
work, and then the top 10%.
Yep.
Right.
So that could be something that, if the board would find it helpful to hear a little bit about that from high school administration.
I know there's scuttlebutt.
Yeah.
People believe that class rank has been done away with. Essentially with I think probably with the transition to standards-based grading and
Well, and I think,
kinda,
yeah. I mean, I think what this policy, even though we don't really officially talk about it much, it still gets calculated
yes.
because there are certain opportunities for high school students based on class rank.
Right.
And so it's still important that we calculate it.
And students are informed.
Yes, right. So, I think that is the number one feedback that I hear, though, is that there's concerns that now that they're not weighted, people use that to their advantage too. So I think I think the idea or the rumor or the feelings out there is that they're gonna.
And we have a
One
big
way or the other.
focus with the high school administration, we've talked about this many times, is trying to be as consistent as possible with our peers, using the same logic.
Yep.
Because otherwise, you're kind of out on an island.
Right.
When you start doing those things for.
Well, and I think, I think consistency, and so that if there's a benchmark practice already, that's important. But I just wanted to make sure that we talked about it and that the public kind of understood the rationale there.
So is that worth a short presentation?
I think it might be.
If the board is
Yeah.
interested.
Yeah, I would be
Wouldn't hurt.
interested. Mm-hmm.
I think it'd be information that the
Sounds
community
good.
would appreciate.
Absolutely.
Well, especially if we get it out to the community, maybe we get more parents tuning into our meeting for that discussion.
True.
And it's been, I would say it's been well communicated with families. It's just whether or not people agree.
Yeah.
I think you do
Yeah.
make a good case.
Right.
But the board should understand it.
Next is 6610, non-district supported student activity accounts. Anything on that?
Nope.
6611, same thing. 7540, technology. Nothing there. 7544, social media.
Wait,
Sorry. Are you on technology?
Technology.
I'm on technology.
Okay.
Just to clarify, on page 2, in the identification section, there's no selection made, so then that means that gets removed. That whole
Yes.
section gets removed, okay. And then also in section B, where it says, so we identified in the first paragraph that form 7530A F1 is what we use. Then the second paragraph says the person signing the request, and then there's 2 options for selection. Is one of those supposed to be selection, like the second one?
Oh, yeah.
Because form,
I didn't even see that.
Okay.
but that's the only,
Yeah,
that's the
that's
only thing I have for that one.
That's a good point.
Social media?
And just for the public's knowledge too, most of the policies that we're reviewing tonight are ones that we have reviewed in the last year even.
Yes.
Correct.
So,
It's
Yep.
just technical, I wouldn't say technical changes, but they're
Yeah.
legal statute changes.
Public records? Student records? Preparedness for toxic hazards. Nursing mothers,
one little typo. And I'm sorry, I don't usually like to do typos.
No, that's
I
okay.
just didn't have time to
okay.
send them ahead of time. On the bottom of the first page, in fulfilling,
Yep.
yep, okay, officer.
Officier.
I mean, it makes it sound fancier.
Some different language.
Okay.
Nursing mothers, lactating employees.
No, but I like the inclusive language. That's my only comment.
As well. Public requests, suggestions, or complaints.
Yes. On page 2, just going again, the first paragraph under guidelines for matters regarding classroom instructional, we say parents of children attending. I know in other places we've changed it to like parents and guardians,
Yeah.
or just guardians.
Yep.
She's right.
So the reason that you'll see that is that our definition of parents is broader.
Perfect.
So then that
Great.
way you don't have to.
That's good.
Great.
Because I think
Yep.
caregivers is a term that I'm hearing
That's,
more
that is what
often
we're using.
Yep.
as
Okay.
well. So this is inclusive of all of them.
Okay,
Good.
perfect.
Good.
Thank you for clarifying.
Citizens advisory committees? Anything there?
My one, the one question I had, let me just look at this here. Okay, so in the first paragraph of the, on page 1, the last sentence says, "The chairperson of an advisory committee shall be chosen from among the lay members." That was the, because human growth and development, wasn't there one, didn't the board appoint the
I think we did.
person?
yeah.
So was that its own, because that has its own policy?
It does, but they were chosen from among the lay members. I think what I read that as meaning is it
Okay.
can't be a staff member.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, I totally read it differently. Even when I read it out loud,
Yeah.
that it was chosen by the lay members, not from.
From,
So,
yeah.
my apologies. Forget
All
I
right.
said anything.
That's all right.
Just erase it. Rewind at home.
You're full of apologies.
Employment of personnel for for co-curricular, extracurricular activities.
I think we got that.
I
Change.
think we got that.
Yep. I
Discussion.
think that,
Anything else?
no.
So we have.
We have a motion and a second. Hearing no more discussion, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously 5-0, and I would look for a motion to adjourn.
I will make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Megan C.
I'll second that.
Megan F. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. It's unanimous. We are adjourned at 9:34
We're only 4 minutes
PM.
Minutes.
Not bad for that kind of a
Crystal
meeting.
balls.
Wait.